Oh, hi, you seem to have caught me on my phone there. Very unprofessional, I'm very sorry. But it's very easy to get hooked on your phones and social media, which is very appropriate to today's topic. We're of course talking Black Mirror Season 5, Episode 2, Smithereens, with Damson Idris, Andrew Scott and Topher Grace, who you will know from a variety of different things, including that Spider-Man film that we do not talk about. But this was one of those where I think everyone again had to give such a great performance, and you know, from the writing etc. as well, they all had to bring their A game. This could have been very preachy, very mawkish, very just beating you around the head with the idea of like, don't text and drive, and don't social media and drive, and don't do all this kind of stuff. But it did it delicately, it did it well, and it's again indicative of Black Mirror's slow move to personal or human drama with a technological element to it. I think like the first season and maybe a bit of the second, you know, it was very much like, oh, what if your toaster but evil, as I'm sure I've seen written somewhere. You know, it was moving away from that as Charlie Brooker and his team matured. And I like this as it is. If I want just generic cautionary sci-fi, I will look for that. But if I want human drama wrapped in cautionary sci-fi, Black Mirror is the drug of choice. But this was one of those episodes, like a lot of media, where it could have gone wrong for me on a number of levels, but it kept me gripped to the end. I was along for the ride, and you know, just like Damson Idris' character, I was there, stuck in this, you know, with Jaden, and I could not move away from my screen. But I've said before on this channel, there are various pieces of media out there where it's got a twist or, you know, some kind of interesting development that you might see coming. Now, I will say in less than half of those times, it does ruin the rest of the show. You are just kind of biding your time until it actually comes to the reveal to prove that you're right. And you feel all smug, but it's that empty kind of smugness. Most smugness really is, if we're honest. But there are the majority that still reward you watching even if you figured it out, because you get to see if you figured out exactly why and how. And this was one of those, you know, the big reveal at the end that, you know, it wasn't just a drunk driver, because obviously they were going to test the blood alcohol, which is how they knew for sure. But Chris got away with it. He was able to pretend that it wasn't at all his fault. But it was, of course. You know, he had just looked at his phone for a minute. It's the excuse we hear all the time. You know, people are like, oh, it's fine, I'll just quickly look at my phone. Driving is one of those things where you need to be fully aware at all times on the road. You know, and he took his attention away for just that split second, and it was enough. Like I say, it gave him the out. Fortunately, you know, that the driver of the other car was drunk, but he rightly feels guilty for it. But like a lot of people who have done something wrong and, you know, caused such a horrific situation in their lives, they do try and deflect. So it wasn't his fault. It was Smithereens' fault. It was social media's fault for being so goddamn addictive.
Everywhere you look, people are hooked on the things. It's like chain smoking. Did you make a lot of cash out of that, did you? And you lot are hooked on them as well. Every single person that comes out of that building is like, people don't even look up anymore. The sky could turn purple and you wouldn't notice for a month. You didn't look up, and look where that got you. Sitting in the back like that.
And that's why he takes over the role of this ride-sharing app driver and hunts Smithereen employees, rightly or wrongly. But it's such a great episode. Like I say, you know, it deals with this topic very well, because it is very easy, you know, to just fall into those traps, like I say. And On the flip side as well, you know, you hear of like pedestrians nearly walking out into the road because their faces are glued to a screen. Now, I really hope that the irony of this is not lost on anyone, that many of you are probably watching this on a screen, but I hope it's at home in a comfortable environment. I hope you're not watching it as you're on your commute to work. You should not be distracted at all where, you know, lumbering machines that can wipe you out very easily are available and in operation, i.e. roads and, I don't know, construction sites, all that kind of stuff, where your life could be at risk because of one momentary lapse of attention and judgment. Put the phone away. Put it in your pocket. If you need to make an emergency call, it's still on you, that's fine. But don't allow it to entrap you. And that's, I think, the great message. Like I say, Black Mirror is moving away from just cautionary sci-fi, but it's doing it in such a way that gets the message across in the most suitable way possible. You want to learn these lessons, you want to take these on board, because otherwise you could end up like Chris, and that's not a good thing. Before we get into the end of the episode, which is quite heavy, I want a quick breather for all of our sakes and talk about the only real reference I spotted, which is the Fences pizza box, which you'll recognise the brand from Crocodile, the self-driving pizza delivery truck that's been investigated with the incident was Fences brand. But the fact that it didn't litter it throughout just, you know, speaks to how much they were aware of the intent and the tone of the episode. Having you go every 5 minutes, oh, that's from such and such, would have pulled you out of it and the message would have been diluted. Could have potentially been arguably good as a way of saying, like, this is how easy our attention is drawn away, but I think it would have suffered for it, and I'm glad they chose that direction. But the end of the episode, very heavy, when we realised that this was just a very elaborate, I guess, soul cleanse into a suicide attempt for Chris. It's really very sad. You know, I did feel for him. I cried. I'm not going to lie. You know, I have no shame. No one should have shame in crying. But that's all it was. It was a very elaborate way of saying, look, I did this. I feel bad. I need to tell someone. Why not the person who facilitated that happening? That will make me feel better, and then I can just end. I can choose not to go on. And it's a very difficult scene to watch. You know, as you know, Bauer's trying to talk him down, and you know, Jaden's in the car, kind of worried for him as well. These people have nothing to do with this guy, but the idea of social media is to bring us together. That's the beauty of this episode. It's telling us how bad social media is, but also saying we are social animals. Let it bring us together, not draw us apart. And I love that the sort of final act, as far as we're aware, we are led to believe that Chris is probably dead by the end of the episode, shot by the snipers. But one of the last things he does, he realises, hold on, I've got the power here to help that poor woman know what happened to her child, and gets to the password. There is a whole issue of like the right of privacy here, but I've covered the right of privacy in a number of videos, which hopefully if I find one it'll be linked above and you can watch. But, you know, I can understand her wanting the closure. It's one of those things where it's almost like an excusable breach of rights, which it feels wrong for me to say that. But if it gets to that closure, and of course it's something that was staring her in the face all along, but very esoteric at the same time. But that I think shows Chris's character. He feels the guilt, yes, and he does all this thing, which is bad, but it came from a place of love. It came from a place of grief. It came from a place where he was not himself. And it is a shame if he doesn't get to continue and improve further. He's listening to mindfulness throughout, which is something I've got personal experience of. And, you know, it is about being able to deal with what life throws at you, accepting these things for what they are, not batting them away, but just letting them be. And maybe it was too little too late. Maybe you needed that lesson much earlier. But we can take that on board now and move forward with it. You know, don't harbour guilt for ages. Don't think that you're worthless. Don't think that you have to leave this world to atone. Do what you can to make the world a brighter place for yourself and everyone around you. If that's not the message to take away, oh, and don't look at your phones all the time, obviously, as well. But if that's not the message to take away from this, then, you know, what is? But I've enjoyed it, in as weird as a word that sounds. You know, I've enjoyed it so far, and I can't wait till next time where we're talking about Miley Cyrus and Black Mirror in the same sentence, and the fact that I kind of loved it. But I'll leave that there for now, so I do hope you join me for that and whatever else is coming. But until next time, as always, thank you for watching, and take care.